This week, a child grazed by bullets in an Upper West Side shooting. Plus, police make arrests in 2 Riverside Park sex assaults.
All it takes is one bad actor to ruin a beautiful running path like this.
And what's next? Now that the search of the Gilgo Beach suspect's house is complete.
We have obtained a massive amount of material.
Right now, Box 5's Crime in the City. Here are the crimes across the 5 boroughs. We begin this week in Manhattan, where 2 bystanders are struck by gunfire, one of them just 4 years old.
The 4-year-old and the adult male who were hit by gunfire, they're expected to be okay. Both innocent bystanders. Now, it's unclear if they were actually together when the shooting broke out, but we do know this. The bodega behind me was open at the time of the shooting. It's a 24-hour bodega. A man that's working at the counter says 2 of his employees were inside. They narrowly missed being hit by gunfire themselves.
I heard 3 loud pops consecutively.
Another spate of gun violence erupting overnight on the Upper West Side. Police say shots were fired just before 12:30 a.m. near the intersection of West 94th Street and Amsterdam Avenue, leaving 1 adult and a child injured.
I didn't think that they were gunshots initially, but in the back of my head I knew that they were.
The wailing sound of sirens confirmed neighbor Andrew Liebert's gut instinct. According to the NYPD, a 4-year-old boy was grazed by a bullet and a man struck in the left foot during what appeared to be an exchange of gunfire between a passing car and this bodega. Both victims are in stable condition at New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell Medical Center.
I saw there was an ambulance here and 5 or 6 police SUVs. I saw a couple EMTs rushing a child into the back of the ambulance.
Cops carefully canvassed the area for evidence, checking for surveillance video at nearby businesses and placing cones over bullet casings. A bullet even tore through the front of this bodega. It's unclear at this point who the intended targets were, but police are looking for who they describe to be a heavy-set man wearing a New York Yankees cap and a gray Toyota sedan. The driver of the sedan drove away northbound on Amsterdam Avenue, and the man ran off in an unknown direction.
You would think that just to be a 4-year-old, to be a kid in the city, you should be safe. You shouldn't have to worry about anything like this, especially going to the neighborhood bodega.
This all comes during a time where the city has touted its efforts to crack down on violent crime, even though most New Yorkers' perceptions of crime haven't changed. According to the latest NYPD crime statistics, shooting incidents across the city are down by 27% year to date. Shooting victims are down from 936 to 671, a decrease of 28.3%.
Nearby in Riverside Park, police tracked down the suspects wanted in 2 separate sex assaults.
Police did use surveillance video, and one of the victims, she ended up pulling off a gold chain from one of the suspects during an attack, and that ultimately ended up being a key piece in this investigation.
I'm really glad to hear that these 2 folks have been caught and apprehended, but all it takes is one bad actor to ruin a beautiful running path like this.
Runners at Riverside Park breathing a sigh of relief after learning 2 suspects have been arrested and charged following a string of sexual assaults. This week, women reported being attacked along 59th Street, 79th, and the 89th Street side of the park. Victims described being approached by a man, then sexually assaulted before the suspect ran away or took off on a bicycle. Police used surveillance video in the area to track down 2 suspects. Investigators believe they were each acting alone but had the same MO.
These are a highly unusual case to have 2 separate stranger attempted rapes in a particular location.
Detectives arrested 39-year-old Luke Tacham-Nubisi. Police recovered a victim's cell phone and clothing they believed he wore during an assault inside his apartment.
During an interrogation, he made incriminating statements, including leaving his chain on the scene and identifying himself on the scene.
Police also arrested 21-year-old Jonathan Yahir Cortez Lopez.
We were able to track both perpetrators coming out of the park for a distance, the one from 89th Street all the way up to 125th Street.
Despite the arrest, runners we spoke to say they are not letting their guard down and will be closely watching their backs.
I don't run when it's dark. Yeah, I never run when it's dark.
run with someone, run with a partner, let someone know when you're out for a run. Take individual responsibility, but as a city and as a community, we need to take responsibility for each other as well and look out for each other.
Over in Harlem, neighbors react after a brutal brawl breaks out near a migrant shelter.
Yesterday, police told us that a group of migrant men staying at this shelter started this fight yesterday morning by throwing objects at people who were just walking by here. But then today, police were no longer able to confirm that they were migrants. Regardless, a fight did break out here and ultimately sent 2 people to the hospital. A Sunday morning fight outside a Harlem shelter sent 2 people to the hospital. Witnesses say a group of men standing outside the shelter at 31 Central Park North were throwing objects at people walking by. They say when a 35-year-old man tried to step in and stop them, he was pushed through a glass door of an apartment building. Then a 41-year-old man tried to intervene in that attack and was also assaulted by the original group. Police say both victims were treated for their injuries at the hospital. Neighbors who have lived here for years say there's been a definite change.
I've had concerns in the last few months with an influx of new residents at the homeless shelter on the corner.
One woman we spoke to didn't want to show her face on camera, but says since the pandemic, there's been a feeling of unease.
I actually was attacked on the train down the station. Safety is not the word for New York, I feel now.
The fight started outside the former Lincoln Correctional Facility, which is now being used as a temporary shelter for asylum seekers and newly arrived migrants. People who live on this block say this particular shelter isn't the one they're really concerned with, but the other homeless shelter down the block on Lenox Avenue.
There's a lot of people hanging out at the homeless shelter now for the immigrants, and they don't seem to cause a problem, but the main shelter on Lenox Avenue is the one that we're concerned about for safety.
Police say they did arrest one man from the group for disorderly conduct, but the others took off. We asked people what they feel is needed here.
I need more cops around here.
Really how we can take care of people from health, mental health, and go from there.
Up in the Bronx, the search is on for the man who punched and sexually assaulted a teenage girl.
Police are looking for the man who they say raped a 17-year-old girl in the Soundview section of the Bronx. They say the victim was walking inside a building on Monday when the suspect punched her in the face, dragged her into a room, and then raped her. She's been hospitalized in stable condition. Anyone with information is being asked to call police.
Moving to Queens, a broad daylight robbery is caught on camera at a smoke shop.
Cops in Queens looking for 2 men who held a female smoke shop employee at gunpoint. This happened just after 2 p.m. yesterday on 44th Street in Sunnyside. Now, police say that the pair pointed the gun at the 21-year-old woman while stealing more than $10,000 in merchandise. They took off in a 2014 Honda Accord with New York license plates right here. The woman, thankfully, not physically hurt, but if you have any information, please call police.
Back in Manhattan, do you recognize these scooter-riding suspects wanted in a string of robberies?
Police also need your help finding the suspects in a series of robberies involving scooters. In the first robbery on June 26, police say the suspects rode up on a scooter and snatched a wallet from a woman on the Upper West Side. A few minutes later, police say they rode up and took a wallet and phone from another woman in the same area. Then on June 27th, police say they rode up and punched a woman in the face on the Upper West Side before taking off with her phone. If you have any information about these individuals, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers.
And finally, leaving the city. After days of digging, the search for evidence at the Gilgo Beach suspect's house wraps up.
For the first time, we're getting a closer look at the home where suspected serial killer Rex Heuermann likely searched the internet and possibly planned murders. But at this point, officials say it's still unclear whether any of his victims were killed there.
We have obtained a massive amount of material.
Police tape and the command center that blocked the street of Huerman's home for nearly 2 weeks are gone now that Suffolk County investigators finished their search.
We won't know exactly what we have for quite some time.
Tree stumps, cracked shingles, and unfinished construction are visible from outside his home. Inside, it's very cluttered, according to District Attorney Ray Tierney, adding nothing of note was taken from his backyard.
A 13-year-old cold case doesn't get solved in a matter of weeks or days.
Robert Kolker, author of Lost Girls, a book about the Gilgo Beach murder victims and their families, says he's surprised in some ways by Huerman's arrest.
He was right there in Massapequa Park, just 20 minutes away from where the bodies were found.
He tells us he's sharpening his pencil for his next book and isn't ruling out the possibility of Huerman being responsible for other bodies.
It seems unlikely to me that somebody so organized and so thoughtful about what he was doing would quit.
Residents we spoke with in Massapequa Park.
It's all worth it at the end of the day because it's going to give closure for the families of the victims.
Say they're relieved Huerman is off the streets and look forward to days with far less disruption.
I'm glad I get, my corner back.
The Nassau County Police Department said they'll have numerous officers intensifying patrols in the area to make sure the neighborhood stays safe and there's no blocking of traffic. They do say they are prepared to write tickets for anybody who doesn't listen. As for the future of the home, we're told a decision will be made by the family.
And that's this week's Crime in the City. Subscribe for more at youtube.com/Fox5NY.